Okay, so now you can see this as a nice star that'll be nice in the background somewhere. Okay, good. So that is star. Put this over here. All right. Okay, now let's move on to the flare tool. Okay, so I'll pull here, then select a point over here, and now you see the flare. Okay, now this is a special effect. It's not something that the human eye normally sees, so you don't want to use this a lot. So wherever your first point is, however much you pull, that's how big the flare is going to be to start off. And then just select a point somewhere else to connect the flare. Okay, so again, this is something that you see through a camera lens. This is not something that you see with the human eye. So you don't want to use this a lot. As a matter of fact, use it very sparingly because it just makes your art look cheap to have flares all the time all over the place. Okay, so that is the flare tool. And these are the different options that you can get with the flare tool. Changing the diameter, the opacity, the brightness, the number of rays, the halo effect, the number of rings, and a percentage, and with direction. Okay, so that is the flare tool. Okay, now let's go to line segment. Now, before I go to the line segment tool, let me digress and show you a little bonus of which is something you can do with the shape builder tool. So choose the shape builder tool here. We'll actually first want to select two shapes and then choose the shape builder tool. Now wherever I drag it, or see where it's highlighted? Wherever I drag and draw with those where it's highlighted will create a shape. So if I drag there, then deselect and pull, that has created a new shape. Let me do it here. Here we got some good overlap. Now I go to shape builder and I'm going to drag across all three, and now that's created one whole new shape. Let me select these three here, go to my shape builder, and now this time I'm just going to select and drag in here, and now this is the only new shape that's been created. So it can be especially useful to create some negative shape effects very quickly, positive, negative effects, and joining shapes. So a little quick bonus with the shape builder tool. Okay, now let's get back to our tutorial already in progress and pick up with the line segment tool. So line segment could draw diagonal lines in any direction, or I can do perpendicular lines. By holding down the shift key, I can draw straight across or up and down, and in any direction I want. Okay, that is the line segment tool. So I double click there, and I can choose the length, and I can choose the angle and fill the line if I want. So I'm not going to do anything right now. Okay, that is the line segment tool. Now let's move on to arc. So the arc tool, I double click here. Again, I can choose the X and Y axis, the type, whether it's going to be open or closed, and what base is going to draw on the X or the Y axis, and whether I want it to be concave or convex, and whether I want the arc to be filled. So that's choosing it from there. I could just draw it also. Okay, so that is the arc tool. Now let's take a look at the spiral tool. Okay, so I can draw, pull with the spiral, double click in here. Okay, and get the dialog box. So I can choose a radius, the decay rate, and the number of segments. I can choose how it starts. So I can choose segments there and pull. Okay, so you see it's a little bit different from here. So the decay rate is different and it creates a little bit more of a tighter spiral. All right, now it's getting kind of junky here. So we're finished with basic objects. Let me get rid of these. Okay. Now let's check off spiral. And now let's go to polar grid. Polar grid. The polar grid. Okay, here we are. Drag, and I get the polar grid there. Double click to pull up our options. I can set the height and the width here. I can set the number of dividers. So here I see there's 5 and 5 for the concentric and the radial. So let me choose 7 here and 3 there. And also I can create a compound path from the ellipses, and I can fill the grid with a color. So I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so now you hear, see I changed it. And again, I can hold down the Shift key to create a perfect circle. Shift Option to draw from the center. Whoops, I let go of the Shift key too soon. Shift key to create a perfect circle. There you go. All right. Okay, so here are the options. Now, I can also have this skew. So I can have a skew in or out. So let's pick out, see what happens. Okay, so there you can get a different configuration. So let me choose skew in. And there, so it's more skewed in. So it's the same number of circles, but I've made it go closer to the center rather than to the outer. Okay, so that is the polar grid. Okay, now let's move on to the rectangular grid. So here's a rectangular grid. Make it small or as large as I want. And hold down the Shift key to make a square grid. Hold down the Option key to pull the grid from the center. And Shift Option to pull from the center and get a perfect square grid. Okay, let's look at the rectangular grid 2 options. Here you can again have the height, the horizontal and vertical dividers. So I'm going to choose 8. And let's choose 10 for vertical. Okay, there we have it here. And now let's choose to change the skewing. So let's skew this toward the top. So now this will give more space on the top when we create a new one. And push all the others down. Okay, so that's the rectangular grid. Use these well and with caution. Do not abuse these things. So use them as you will. So again, these are the foundation things that you will be using. So they will come in very handy because everything is based on shapes. Anything you want to draw, anything you want to design is based on shapes. So these are some of the basic tools that you'll be using to create those. Okay, now let's look at the homework for this session. So the homework today is to use an ellipse tool to create 2 overlapping circles. Then use the polygon or the star tool to create an upside down triangle. Place these 3 in a heart-shaped configuration. Then use any other shape tool to close any gaps, because there might be a gap in between. The circles might not join, or the triangle might not really go right, because you want a nice smooth outline around it. So when you join those in that configuration, be careful. Look at the outlines. Don't have the triangles sticking out any. And then use the shape builder tool to join the shapes together to create a red heart. Okay, so this will make use of some of the things that you learned here, and then go further and see what other shapes you can create from these objects. Okay, so that is lesson 3 for today. Thanks for coming. So come back next time so we can learn much, much more. So remember, go out and just create.